Good evening. Every year, thousands of South Africans die without having drafted a will. As National Wills Week comes to a close, we reflect on the reasons why younger people, especially those with children, should draft wills in case of an untimely death. Rohit Gordhan, Director at Legatee Trust Services, joins us now for more on this conversation. Rohit, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, having a will is very important, but when you have younger children, how important is that?
It's thanks for having me, Bali. So it's extremely important to have a will, especially for the younger generation. You know, the younger generation often think that they're invincible, immortal, and especially if you have younger children, you need to have a legally binding document in place to be able to appoint a guardian, or you may have a partner who's a drug addict, alcoholic, gambler. And it's important that you ensure that your assets are bequeathed correctly in terms of your will, especially in terms of marital regimes, married in community of property, out of community of property without the accrual, out of community of property with the accrual. It's important that you ensure that your assets are bequeathed correctly in terms of your intentions to your minor children, to your loved ones, and hence the importance of having a will in place.
And what problems do you find when the younger generation passes away and they have younger children?
So like I said, if you pass away without a will, your assets are bequeathed in terms of the Law of Interstate Succession Act. So with the Law of Interstate Succession Act, your assets are bequeathed in terms of a formula. So it can go anyway. It's not guaranteed that it's going to be able to go to your loved ones. Anything can happen. So having a legally binding will in place, you ensure that your loved ones are bequeathed in terms of a testamentary trust. What's nice about a will is that you can create the testamentary trust and you can ensure that your minor children, inherit the assets at a specific age. For example, you can have a will, put a testamentary trust in place, and ensure that your minor child gets the inheritance at the age of 21. So the testamentary trust, what it will do is look after the child's education, school fees, day-to-day, and at the time when you depict in your will that the specific age terminates, or rather the minor child reaches the specific age mentioned in the will, he or she then will inherit the capital in the testamentary trust.
And Rohit, when it comes to issues around wills and especially with the younger generation and not having these wills, why do you find that there are a number of young people who always decide, maybe I'll do it a bit later, I'm still very young, it's not like I'm going to pass away tomorrow?
So, as I said, in the younger generation, there's always this feeling of being invincible, being immortal. Nobody ever wakes up in the morning wanting a will. It's usually a consequence of financial planning. So the younger generation, what happens is they tend to procrastinate it, not realizing that, or alternatively, they may think that they don't have assets, but they fail to think that you accumulate assets over a period of time. You may be a young professional. You will be involved with a spouse or rather a partner who's a gambler, drug addict, and your assets at the time are in jeopardy or vulnerable. So therefore, it's important then to have the legally binding will in place to be able to ensure that your loved ones inherit the assets. You may have group life cover, you may have pension where you don't have a nominated beneficiary in place. And in those instances, your policies, your investments without nominated beneficiaries will be paid to your estate, into your estate. So it's one of the most important things of having a will in place.
And Rohit, perhaps maybe let's also talk about, to draw the will is not really cheap. How much does it actually cost for somebody to try and, to ensure that they do put, their wishes in writing?
So it varies in the industry. A lot of the institutions now draft the will free of charge. At Legatee Trust Services, for example, we draft the will free of charge. There's a number of platforms available where you can log on online and be able to draft your will free of charge. Gone are the days where you would have the attorneys charging exorbitant fees through a consultation fee, where you'd pay anything from 1,500 to 3,500 rand. So there are a number of opportunities through boutique trust companies and other trust companies that are available in the industry that will draft your will free of charge. 70% of South Africans statistically do not have a valid will in place. And it's important that you take advantage of such platforms and opportunities in the industry.
And what is the grey area when we keep on hearing that, you can get a will free of charge? There is some sort of grey area, especially when it comes, to your trust as a whole.
So it's important when you're drafting a will free of charge, as per se, that you nominate a reputable executor. And for me, that's one of the most important things when you draft a will, because the executor executes, or rather administers, the estate in terms of the testator or testatrix true intention. For example, you leave your property to your mum, you leave your vehicle, investments, etc., policies to your siblings. It's important that you nominate a reputable executor, for example, like Legatee Trust Services, to be able to execute and administer your estate as per your intention. So coming back to your previous point, it is quite taboo in many cultures that drafting a will invites death. For example, if I draft a will today, I'm inviting death. In 6 months' time, I'll pass away. Alternatively, in some cultures, if I draft a will today, my wife or my husband will get someone to kill me to be able to inherit the assets in terms of the will. And that is really a myth. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that if I have car insurance, that I'm going to meet in an accident next week. So therefore, I urge every one of you to be able to take the opportunity, especially during Wills Week, to be able to ensure that your will is in place.
And just lastly, your advice to South Africans, especially, those, to encourage them, like you're saying, to take out more wills, because, 70% of us don't even have these wills.
That's correct. Yeah. So if you've got a minor child, if you've gained a nice sum of assets, policies, investments, shares, unit trusts, and even if you don't own anything, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be not having what you have, or rather you'll be gaining a lot of wealth in the time of your life. So it's important that you have the will in place, and consult with reputable trust companies to be able to ensure that they structure and advise you on how to go about drafting the will.
All right, Rohit, thank you so much for your time and for that insight. That is Rohit Gordhan, Director at Legatee Trust Services.